anyways, next question. Wanting to scale up link building for my own sites and SEO clients. Till now, I've just been doing small scale link packages like press releases, citations, etc. Would you recommend training a VA in-house with something like Mailshake, or just use a company like Authority Builders for all outreach? Well, I would say, train somebody in-house if you're going to do outreach, but there's just so many issues with that, like Authority Builders. And I've talked about this a lot, but I've spent a lot of money on guest posts and link insertions, or niche edits is another term for that, from sites like Authority Builders or Get Me Links or One Little Web, a few different sort providers like that, and then another one. And what I found is that's precisely why I built the method that I use for semantic links, was because the cost associated with buying guest posts or niche edits or link insertions from these types of companies, link providers, is very expensive, because they sell you on traditional metrics, traditional what I call authority metrics, which would be like Moz, DA, and PA and DA. So Moz metrics, page authority, domain authority, or Ahrefs, UR and DR, so URL rating and domain rating metrics, and traffic metrics. That's what they sell you on. So the higher the metrics, whether it's Moz or Ahref metrics or traffic metrics, the higher the cost. And sometimes it's a combination of metrics that they'll sell you, but the higher the metrics, the higher the cost. And yet the topical relevance isn't generally going to be there. It will be at a page level, but at the domain level, it's generally not. So you always remember, guys, whenever you're getting links, there's page level relevance, there's page level metrics as far as what we just talked about, like Moz metrics, which would be page authority. Then there's domain metrics, which is domain authority, or likewise with Ahrefs, there's UR, which is URL rating. That's page level metrics. And then domain rating, that's domain metrics. Well, the same thing occurs with topical relevance, right? There's relevance factor or relevance score of the page, which is generally going to be relevant. Like whenever you buy a guest post or a niche edit, well, not always with a niche edit. If you're buying from a high quality source like Authority Builders or something like that, then generally the page topic, the page relevance is going to be very relevant. If you buy niche edits or link insertions from a lower quality source, then oftentimes they're going to place your link into an article that has an occurrence of your specific keyword that you wanted to use as an anchor text, but the page itself may not be relevant at all. It just happened to have that specific keyword in the page. That's a link that's basically worthless, because if it's coming from a page that is completely in an unrelated topic or something that's not, closely related, then that link is basically worthless. And that's why I'm saying, like, even with guest posts, you have a bit more control over it, especially from higher quality link providers, because with guest posts, you can, first of all, the article is going to be new and drafted for your link. So it's going to be on topic, and you can also request to have whatever keyword you want as the anchor text for that link inserted into the title. You can request to make sure that the keyword is in the title, which makes that link more relevant, right? The relevance score for that link is higher if the keyword that's used in the anchor text for that link is included in the title. So that's how you kind of, at a page level relevance score, there's a couple of factors, but you can increase that relevance score if the keyword that's used as the anchor text is also in the title of that article. Does that make sense? So that's page level topical relevance. But then there's domain relevance, right? What is the overall topical category, the most prominent or primary topical category of that domain itself? And if it's not related or relevant, or at least closely related, then you're only getting about half of the relevance kind of factor that you would get, that you could get. You see what I'm saying? Because there's page level relevance, just like there is page level metrics. Then there's domain metrics or domain relevance. Okay, so, and just as an example, I've talked about this before, but this is, sorry, where is it? On page. OnPage.ai is Eric Lancheras' tool. Okay, it's a great tool. It's expensive, but it's a very good tool. And he's got built into this, which is kind of where I really discovered this through testing, but then also right before he launched this initially, because I got in on this when he did his kind of like beta tester launch for this tool. And then it's again, super expensive. Well, I think it's it's rather expensive, but it's a great tool. Anyway, before he had launched this, he was talking it up, like pre-launching, right? He was building buzz about this tool before he launched it. And I'm on his list. I've been following Eric Lancheras for 10 years or eight or 9 years, since back in the Panda recovery days. Some of you guys that have been around for a long time know who Eric Lancheras is. But he's been around for a long time. A highly respected dude. He's a great SEO. So I've been following him for many, many years. And so anyways, this is a great tool. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because he has what's called predictive guest posts. So it's a way to use Google's NLP. Like here it is in it, part of it, right? This is just let's see if I can open that image in a new tab and zoom in on it a little bit. Let me see if I can do that. Yeah. Okay. So this gives you an example of what I'm talking about, guys. There's page relevance score and domain relevance score. So if you're getting a link from a source that the page is topically relevant, which is pretty much, that's like standard operating procedure. When you get, I mean, especially if you're paying for a high quality link, and I'm using air quotes, right? Then generally the page is going to always be relevant. At least it should be. So that's easy to do though. You can publish a page on pretty much any website, no matter what the website's about. You can publish a page on that site and make the page relevant to its intended target. So that's easy to do. But the domain relevance, that's where, you know, that's half of kind of like the relevance factor or relevance score. And generally that's not going to be relevant. Like a lot and this is from my own experience, which is precisely why I developed the kind of semantic links method, which is going after domains that are topically relevant, not just page level. And then I purchase those domains and then build the pages that are topically relevant, but the domain was already relevant, right? It was either with the same topical trust flow category, which is a majestic metric, which again, Google doesn't care about majestic metrics either, just so you guys know, but it's the only tool that gives a measure of topical relevance, right? It's a topical relevance scoring system called topical trust flow. And it's by no means perfect, but it's a fairly good indicator of what the topical relevance is of external links. Does that make sense? So what we do is we go out and hunt down domains that are already in the appropriate topical trust flow category that we need for our target, whatever that is, right? And then we look at the domains that we've identified that have that appropriate topical trust flow category, and we look to see what was the history of it, what was the former content. And it doesn't have to be an exact match, but as far as what the former content was, it doesn't have to be exactly the same type of content, as long as it's closely related, right? In a related category. So for example, I could get like an old, you know, a domain that has business, construction, and maintenance as the topical trust flow category that might have been a plumber's site or a flooring company's site previously, right? And then, but I end up repurposing that to be used as a site for a roofer. Does that make sense? Or to build a link for, so basically I would place an article, I would buy that domain and we would generate an article that's optimized for roofing service or roof replacement or roof repair. And then we would publish that article on this domain that has business, construction, and maintenance as the topical trust flow category. And it was in the home services, home, you know, improvement industry anyways. Does that make sense? So that's relevant. And so that's what I'm talking about with purchasing guest posts. You're going to be able to always, from higher quality providers, you're going to, the page relevance is going to be spot on. It should be, right? It should be spot on because you have some control over the content as the title too. So whatever your anchor text is that you choose for your link, you want to work that into the title of that post or article, because that makes that link relevance score higher. The link becomes more relevant that way. But that's only half of it, because the other half is the domain relevance. And most of the time on these guest posts that they sell you on these metrics, and you get, which are traditional metrics, have nothing to do with topical relevance. And so you pay, the higher the metrics, the more you pay. But what happens is a lot of, and again, I was spending thousands of dollars per month on links last year from sources like what you mentioned. And I was finding that they were not producing the kind of effect that they should for the kind of money that I was spending. And that's when I started kind of researching and analyzing, like, why am I not getting results from these links? And I'm paying anywhere between $150 to $400 per link, right? For guest posts or niche edits. And again, niche edits, if, as I mentioned before, with the niche edit or link insertions, another term for that, they're interchangeable. It means the same damn thing. That means getting a link inserted into a page or post that already has been published. And it's aged. Typically it's aged because it's been published, it's been indexed. It may have some internal links pointing to it from whatever site it's published on. So it means that it probably has some sort of, it's not a brand new post like a guest post would be, right? So sometimes there's some kind of benefit to having a seasoned or an aged post and inserting your link in there. From a higher quality link insertion or niche edit provider, they're generally going to find a very relevant article to insert your link in. But from a lower quality niche edit, and trust me, because I've used a lot of them, I've tested a whole bunch of different link providers. That's why I decided to build my own link building business, to develop my own link building service, because I couldn't find anybody that would provide 100% topically relevant links, both at the page level and the domain level. Does that make sense? And so, but with lower quality niche edits, a lot of times you'll end up getting a link insertion where the keyword occurred in the content, but the page is not relevant at all, right? So that's a worthless link and you just pissed your money away. And then the other thing about lower quality or less expensive, cheaper niche edits is they oftentimes will use the same article for 18 other link insertions. And so the article is just peppered with links that go outbound links to other, and so it's just ridiculous. And sometimes the same key phrase is used for 2 different outbound links, which means you're basically destroying the value of that link. And those links aren't valuable anyways, because a lot of times it's not relevant. And even if it is relevant, again, it's been hacked with a bunch of different links and all that kind of shit. So don't use cheap providers, number one. Number two, if you're going to use higher, kind of more expensive providers, like you mentioned, Authority Builders is one of them. It's really important that if you're going to spend that kind of money on links that you demand that you not only get page level relevance, but you get domain level relevance, or at least closely related categories, something that would logically be related, if that makes sense. Because otherwise you end up with a link that is not producing the kind of effect that it should, which again, that's why I go back to what I said was I started to develop my semantic links method, which is just going out and hunting down domains that are already at the domain level. They're topically relevant to what their intended target is going to be. And we purchase those domains for 10 to 15 bucks, right? They're not on auction. We're talking about expired domains that are available to register now, right? And so I'll go purchase those domains for 10 to 15 bucks. And then we publish an article and we host them on an HTML site. That it's just a single page HTML site that then we host on cloud hosting. My cost, and I'll be 100% transparent about this, my overall cost for all the tools that I use to find the domains, the labor, the different services, on-page AI is one of them that I use for testing topical relevance and things like that. But all the different tools, my labor costs, everything else that I use, it costs me about $62. And that includes the cost of domain registration per rebuild. And that's what I call them, rebuilds, because they're reclaimed domains. I'm not rebuilding the old content, but I'm finding domains that have been used previously and picking them up, and we build brand new content optimized for whatever its intended target is. But I call them rebuilds anyways, because when I first started this link building business, we were actually rebuilding the old sites. We download the archive.org Wayback Machine records for that domain, and then we modernize the code, because oftentimes the code is bloated with a bunch of archive.org like junk, as well as a lot of times those archive.org records look like 1995 built websites, like seriously. So when I first started this business, we would actually download the archive.org records, and then I had an HTML builder who still works for me today that would modernize the code, bring it up to like HTML5 standards and all that. And we would republish the domains. That's why I call them rebuilds. But we stopped doing that because we found that wasn't necessary. We can publish brand new content on those domains that is optimized specifically with brand new HTML templates too. And they still index just fine. I've got no issues with that whatsoever. So I still call them rebuilds, but they're not actually rebuilds because it's brand new content, but they're reclaimed domains. Does that make sense? So we do it at a page level and domain level relevance. Like the relevance is there at both parts, right? Both components, which is, so what I'm saying is the cost of let's say $15 to register the domain, plus whatever you pay for hosting, plus your time to generate the article, or to hire out whoever you hire out to produce your content, whatever. You wrap all that up and it still ends up being a fraction of what it costs to pay for one of these high dollar guest posts or one of these high dollar niche edits. So like I said, my hard costs are about $62 per rebuild right now. And that's with all of my labor and everything else included. But I get a better result from one of my rebuild sites, one of my domains that we purchase and rebuild, right? So my cost is $62 and it produces a better effect than a $300 guest post does in most cases. So in my opinion, like it's a no brainer. I can build 5 rebuilds for the same cost as it would take for one high dollar guest post. And I can manipulate traffic metrics, right? I can do that all day long with CTR manipulation tools. So there's no reason why I should pay $300 for a guest post on traffic metrics. And I don't give a damn about URDR metrics or PADA metrics at all anymore. What I care about is topical relevance, period. If I can get those other metrics and topical relevance, then I'll take them. Like, don't get me wrong. It's not like, well, that's got high DR. I don't want that link. No, it's not that at all. I just don't care. I don't look at those. But if I happen to find topically relevant links that also have those metrics, then hell yeah, I'll take it. But those aren't the metrics that I care about. I care about relevance. And again, this is kind of where this idea came from, was Eric. And what, like I said, when I heard him talking about this, I was right in the middle of trying different link providers, and I was using the high dollar guest post servicing services and stuff like that. And I was getting diminishing, like the results weren't there for the kind of money I was spending. And so I was in the process of like researching and analyzing a bunch of different data points and testing different link providers and different types of links and everything else, trying to figure out what would work. When Eric came out with On-Page AI, and it was before he'd actually launched it, he was kind of like building it up. And he was talking about page level and domain level relevance scores or factors. And it clicked with me instantly. I was like, that's the missing component, is the domain relevance factor. And so it instantly, like even before the tool was out, I was like, okay, well, I know how I can go start finding these. I knew the Majestic uses topical trust flow, which is a measure of topical relevance. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to start using Majestic to do all my analysis. And I started testing. And then shortly thereafter, I got access to this as a beta, when he first launched it under beta. And I started using it. And sure enough, when you can get a link from a source that has both page level match and domain relevance match, it is a much more effective link. And oftentimes you can get those for a hell of a lot cheaper, right? And it's a better link, produces a better effect. I don't know. So hopefully that makes sense. So to get back to what you're saying, if you're going to do it, if you want to do outreach, then, do it in-house, but make sure that you're only requesting links or trying to, to get links placed on sites that are both relevant at a page level and at a domain level. And that's why doing it in-house is better, in my opinion. In other words, having an outreach VA or team or whatever that's working, because then you can be very specific. Now, some of the high dollar link providers will do that too, but you pay for that, right? You might pay $500-600 per link that way, where you could do that in-house for a hell of a lot cheaper, but you got to go through the process of training people and all that other stuff. But all I'm saying, guys, is start paying attention to this. A lot of you guys probably use Ahrefs. That's what most of the SEO industry uses, but there's no measure of topical relevance there. I'm not saying don't use that tool, but I'm saying you might want to start also, because I don't use it at all. I don't care. Like I said, I use Majestic as purely, that's all I use for my external link analysis tool, because it measures topical relevance. And that's what matters to me. And I've proven through my own testing that it works way better when I have highly relevant link sources. Okay. So that's what I would suggest. Do it in-house unless you got a budget to pay for these higher dollar link providers to make sure that you're only getting links that are relevant at both the page level and the domain level.